Welcome to the Thea Lee Podcast. It is February 24th, 2026, and we are on day 55 of reading through the Bible. Today the Lord tells Moses that in addition to the Sabbath day that he wants his people to observe every week, meaning that the people will work 6 days in a row, and the seventh day will be a day of complete rest, an official day for Holy Assembly. In addition to this official day, the Lord has appointed festivals, more official days of Holy Assembly that are to be celebrated at their proper time every year. The first one is the Passover and the Festival of Unleavened Bread. This festival, the Passover, begins at sundown on the 14th day of the first month. On the next day, the 15th day of the month, you must begin celebrating the Festival of Unleavened Bread. This is a festival to the Lord that continues 7 days, and during that time, you must not eat any bread made with yeast. On the first day, all the people stop their ordinary work and observe an official day for Holy Assembly. For 7 days, they present special gifts to the Lord, and then on the seventh day, they must stop again at their work and observe the official day of Holy Assembly. Next is the Festival of the Firstfruits. When you enter the land that God is giving you, and you harvest the first crops, you have to bring the priest a bundle of grain from the first cutting of your grain harvest. On the day after the Sabbath, the priest will lift it up before the Lord so it may be accepted on your behalf. On that same day, you must sacrifice a 1-year-old male lamb with no defects as a burnt offering to the Lord. And then with it, you present a grain offering consisting of 4 quarts of choice flour moistened with olive oil. This is a special gift, a pleasing aroma to the Lord. You also offer 1 quart of wine as a liquid offering. You don't eat any bread or roasted grain or fresh kernels on that day until you bring this offering to God. This is a permanent law observed from generation to generation wherever they live. The next is the Festival of Harvest. From the day after the Sabbath, the day that you bring in the bundle of grain lifted up to the special offering, you count off 7 full weeks. You keep counting until the day after the 7th Sabbath, 50 days later. Then you present an offering of new grain to the Lord. From wherever you live, you bring 2 loaves of bread to be lifted up before the Lord as a special offering. These loaves, made from 4 quarts of choice flour, and bake them with yeast. They will be an offering to the Lord from the first of your crops. Along with the bread, you present 7 1-year-old male lambs with no defect, 1 young bull, 2 rams as burnt offerings to the Lord. These burnt offerings, together with the grain offerings and liquid offerings, will be a special gift and a pleasing aroma to the Lord. Then you must offer 1 male goat as a sin offering and 2 1-year-old male lambs as a peace offering. The priest is going to lift up the 2 lambs as a special offering to God, together with the loaves presenting the first of your crops. These are holy to the Lord, and they belong to the priest. The same day will be proclaimed an official day for Holy Assembly, a day which you are not to do any ordinary work. This is a permanent law, observed from generation to generation. When you harvest the crops in your land, do not harvest the grain along the edges, and do not pick up the harvester's drop. Leave it for the poor and the foreigners living among you. Then next is the Festival of Trumpets. On the first day of the appointed month in early autumn, you are to observe a day of complete rest. It will be an official day for Holy Assembly, a day commemorated with loud blasts of a trumpet. You do no ordinary work on that day. Instead, you are to present special gifts to the Lord. Then they have the Day of Atonement. Be careful to celebrate the Day of Atonement on the 10th day of that same month, 9 days after the Festival of Trumpets. You observe it as an official day for Holy Assembly, a day to deny yourself. Present special gifts to the Lord. Do not work during that entire day, because it's the Day of Atonement when offerings of purification are made for you, making you right with the Lord your God. All who do not deny themselves that day will be cut off from God's people, and I will destroy anyone among you who does any work on that day. You must not do any work at all. This is a permanent law, and it must be observed from generation to generation. This will be a Sabbath day of complete rest for you, and on that day you must deny yourselves. The day of rest will begin at sundown on the 9th day of the month and extend until sundown on the 10th day. Then next is the Festival of Shelters. Begin celebrating the Festival of Shelters on the 15th day of the appointed month, 5 days after the Day of Atonement. This festival to the Lord will last for 7 days. On the first day, you must proclaim an official day for Holy Assembly when you do no ordinary work. For 7 days, you must present special gifts to the Lord, and the 8th day is another holy day in which you present special gifts to the Lord, and this will be a solemn occasion. No ordinary work may be done on that day. Remember that this is a 7-day festival to the Lord. The Festival of Shelters begins on the 15th day of the appointed month, after you have harvested all the produce of the land. The first day and the 8th day of the festival are complete days of rest. On the first day, gather branches from magnificent trees, palm fronds, boughs, and leafy trees, and willows that grow by the streams. Then celebrate with joy before the Lord your God for 7 days. Observe this festival to the Lord for 7 days every year, and this is a permanent law. For 7 days you must live outside in little shelters, and this will remind each new generation of Israelites that I made their ancestors live in shelters when I rescued them from the land of Egypt. Next, the Lord tells Moses to command the people to bring pure oil pressed from olives for the light, for the lamps that are burning in the sanctuary. That golden lampstand that stands in the tabernacle in front of the inner curtain, and it shields the Ark of the Covenant, and this lamp must be kept burning all night. Aaron and his sons must keep these lamps burning, and so the people must bring the oil for this lamp. Then they also must bake 12 loaves of bread from choice flour, using 4 quarts of flour for each loaf. And this is the bread that sits before the Lord on the pure gold table. They must arrange the loaves in 2 rows with 6 loaves in each row. They put some pure frankincense near each row to serve as a representative offering, a special gift presented to the Lord. Every Sabbath day is when this bread must be laid out before the Lord, and then the bread is to be received from the people of Israel as a requirement of their eternal covenant with God. The loaves of bread will belong to Aaron and his descendants, who must eat them in a sacred place, for they are most holy. It is the permanent right of the priest to claim this portion of the special gifts presented to the Lord. Then they start talking about examples of just punishment. So they tell a story about a man whose mother was an Israelite and his father was an Egyptian, and he came out of his tent and got into a fight with one of the Israelite men. But during this fight, that man blasphemed the name of the Lord with a curse. So he was brought to Moses for judgment. They kept the man in custody until the Lord's will in the matter should become clear to them. So then the Lord told Moses to take the blasphemer outside the camp and tell all of those who heard the curse to lay their hands on his head, and then the entire community was to stone him to death. Tell the people of Israel, those who curse their God will be punished for their sin. Anyone who blasphemes the name of the Lord must be stoned to death by the whole community of Israel. Any native-born Israelite or foreigner living among them who blasphemes the name of the Lord must be put to death. Then it says anyone who takes another person's life must be put to death. Anyone who kills another person's animal must pay for it in full, a live animal for the animal that was killed. Anyone who injures another person must be dealt with according to the injury inflicted. A fracture for a fracture, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Whatever anyone does to injure another person must be paid back in kind. Whoever kills an animal must pay for it in full, but whoever kills another person must be put to death. This same standard applies to both native-born and the foreigners living among them. After Moses gave these instructions, then the Israelite took that blasphemer outside the camp and stoned him to death. The Israelites did just as the Lord had commanded. While Moses was still on Mount Sinai, the Lord told him to give the following instructions to the people. When they enter the land that I am giving them, the land itself must observe a Sabbath rest before the Lord every 7th year. So for 6 years you plant your fields and prune your vineyards and harvest your crops, but during the 7th year the land must rest. It is the Lord's Sabbath. Do not plant your fields or prune your vineyards during this year. Don't store away any of the crops that grow on their own or gather the grapes from your unpruned vines. The land must have a year of complete rest. But you may eat whatever the land produces on its own during its Sabbath. This applies to you, your male servants, and your hired workers, and the temporary residents who live with you. Your livestock and the wild animals can also be allowed to eat what the land produces. And then in addition, you must count off 7 Sabbath years, 7 sets of 7 years, adding up to 49 years in all. Then, on the Day of Atonement on the 50th year, you blow the ram's horn loud and long throughout the land. Set this year apart as holy, a time to proclaim freedom throughout the land for all who live there. It's a Jubilee year for you, when each of you may return to the land that belonged to your ancestors and return to your own clan. This 50th year will be a Jubilee year. During that year, you must not plant your fields or store away any of the crops that grow on their own, and don't gather the grapes from your unpruned vines. It will be a Jubilee year for you, and you must keep it holy, but eat whatever the land produces on its own. In the year of the Jubilee, each of you may return to the land that belonged to your ancestors. When you make an agreement with your neighbor, if you're going to sell property, you must not take advantage of each other. If you are going to buy land or sell land to your neighbor, the price you must pay is based on the number of years since the last Jubilee. The seller must set the price, taking into account the number of years remaining until the next Jubilee year. The more years until the next Jubilee, the higher the price. The fewer years, the lower the price. After all, the person selling the land is actually selling you a certain number of harvests. So show fear to God by not taking advantage of each other. If you want to live securely in the land, follow all of these decrees. Then the land is going to yield large crops, and you will eat your fill and live securely. You may wonder, what will we eat during the 7th year, since we're not allowed to plant or harvest crops? But be assured that God is going to send his blessing on you in that 6th year, so that the land will produce a crop large enough for 3 years. So by the time you plant in the 8th year, you will still be eating from the large crop of the 6th year. In fact, you're still going to be eating from that large crop when the new crop is harvested in the 9th year. The land must never be sold on a permanent basis. The land belongs to God. You are only foreigners and tenant farmers working for God. Thanks for listening. We'll talk again tomorrow.